I live in silence by choice, not because I have no one to talk to, and not because I am afraid of people. It is just that people are noise. Loud, continuous, often meaningless noise. And I am capable of spending entire days without a single social contact, and yet feeling not emptiness but a sense of renewal. Silence is my home. My baseline state is somewhere around 99% peace. Long ago, I accepted that most people do not understand this, and I stopped explaining. But there is still that 1%, and it is this exact 1% that sometimes gets to me at night. It is not loneliness in the sense of being physically alone. I go to gatherings, I hear laughter, conversations about vacations, work, the news. I sit at the same table, and in those moments I feel kilometers of thick glass between myself and everyone else, transparent, yet impenetrable. There is a crowd around me, but inside there is something for which there are no words, something akin to Munch's painting, a despair in silence that no one around hears because everyone is too busy with their own noise. For a long time, I thought this was just my peculiarity, that I was simply an introvert and that I did not need intimacy. It is a convenient version, convenient and untrue. Because if you dig deeper, it turns out that the 1% exists. It is just very specific. It is not about having someone by your side, not about a function, not about being part of a couple. It is about a person who will not be frightened by my pain, someone who can withstand the depth and will not run away when I am completely down, someone to whom I do not need to explain anything because they just understand. They do not try to fix it. They do not give advice. They do not change the subject to something lighter. Where does such a demand come from? I know where. There was one space in my life where all of this existed. My father, the only safe harbor where I was accepted unconditionally, just as I am, without hesitation, without judgment, without expectations. When he passed away, it was not just the loss of a person. The only place where I could be completely myself disappeared. And since then, any other contact feels a bit like a counterfeit. Because I know how the original sounds, I know the taste of unconditional acceptance. And when it is not there, I feel it instantly, even before I have time to realize it. But he left me an anchor, and I will never forget it. On the darkest days, and there were many of them, I held onto my love for him, onto that 1 in a million chance of meeting again someday. It sounds irrational. Maybe it is, but love turned out to be stronger than the desire to end the pain, and I am still grateful to it for that, quietly and without loud words. In relationships, I am not looking for someone to fill my empty space. I am not looking for a half. That concept is entirely foreign to me. Merging with someone and losing your own contours is not intimacy, it is dissolution. I am looking for an equal union of two autonomous systems, a place where you can be yourself without having to pay for it with your freedom, where being silent is comfortable, where depth is not frightening, where you do not have to explain why you need silence or why you have not replied to messages for 2 days. Sometimes my body knows this before my head has time to catch up. A body that has stood guard for years, that has learned not to rely on anyone. Sometimes it just wants a safe embrace, without negotiations, without conditions, simply as the fact that someone is there, not going anywhere. I feel it as a quiet physical request that appears out of nowhere, and which is hard to deny once you finally start noticing it, instead of ignoring it. And do you know where I find something resembling this presence? Next to a cat. The warmth of a living creature that does not give advice, does not judge, does not demand explanations. It just stays. It lies down next to me and breathes. I am here. I am not going anywhere. And you don't have to do anything for me to stay. There is something in this silent warmth that is hard to put into a single word, but which I feel is genuine. Maybe love is not about filling your 100% with someone else, not about merging, not about salvation from loneliness, not about finally ceasing to be alone. Maybe it is about finding someone with whom my 1% of loneliness finally stops screaming, not disappears, but simply stops screaming. because there will be someone beside me who also knows silence is home and you can be together in it. I do not know if I will find such a person, but I no longer pretend that I do not want to. It is more honest. And honesty with oneself is perhaps my starting point. Who do you look for most often in a relationship? An ideal partner, salvation from loneliness, or the opportunity to finally be yourself? How do you cope with that 1% deficit when you are left alone? Do you go to people, scroll through your feed, or do you allow this feeling to just be? Is there at least one place or living creature in your life next to which you can feel absolutely carefree without any functions or tasks? How much noise do you create around yourself just to avoid hearing that very silent screaming inside? Sometimes the greatest deficit is not loneliness as such. It is the absence of a place where you are accepted unconditionally, quieter than it seems.